perfect. Okay, well, it's live now. So yeah, let's just you seeing it, Anthony?
I'm on the page. I'm not sure if I should be doing something special.
Yeah, hold on then. Hold on, let me just go to the LinkedIn page here.
Oh, it's alive now.
Oh, it's live?
Yeah, it's saying live.
Yeah, so I guess we're live.
Okay, great.
All right, perfect. So good evening again, Omar.
Good
Um,
evening.
yes, sir. So first and foremost, you and I have known each other for a while. Um, I have been in e-commerce since 2011. I work for Amazon in the BPO space,
Yeah.
and I've known you for a bit. You've been in technology, computer. I think I probably bought a computer from you at some point in here in Mandeville.
Okay, good.
So I think my interest really blossomed when I think Amazon became like a $1 trillion company, and everybody started talking about it. I think this was 2000 and probably 19 or something. And I was like, wait, I was a customer support rep, and I've been researching. So I started really writing about it. My interest was pretty deep in just being able to sell online. My first startup was a travel company where you sold stuff online.
Right.
And I love that because when you sell travel online, you're not packaging and shipping anything. It's just like a middleman. So
Mm-hmm.
in that whole journey, I decided, after writing a bunch of articles, I was like, um, it would be good if I did something a step out of that, since that we are now coming into e-commerce with our own ventures.
Right.
So yeah, so the live what we're having now is really the first one, and I thought it was important that we share your story because it's an impressive story. It's a homegrown story, and and you have an interesting story of what led you from high school days in technology all the
Mhm.
way to where you are now.
Right, right, right.
So the first question I want to ask you is, you're in tech now, you're a tech CEO. What what was that initial spark to choose tech?
All right. So I remember back in high school, they used to call me Inspector Gadget. I
Right.
was that guy that would have any little piece of tech that exists that could maybe it was just to impress, persons around me. I mean, but it was always my thing to keep on top, keep on top of technology. And there were so many other factors around me in terms of getting our first computer and, according to my mom, just totally destroying it, but at least learning in the process how it worked. And just moving along. I remember when they were building the computer lab at St. Diego. The day the truck was there, I was there when the door opened because I heard that they were coming, and I was there to help carry all of those computers up the stairs, only to be told a couple of weeks after when the lab was done that, boy, I'm not able to do IT because math average or something to that effect was not up to par. So I mean, I pushed on, and that's where I think the first struggle came in. But then I'll always say to persons, if you have a dream, just be planned to fight for it. I remember not getting to do IT in high school, and I went to sixth form, but instead of focusing on sixth form, I remember I'm going out and doing a diploma. So I would leave school, go and do a diploma. I mean, do my diploma classes and then come back. And that's my introduction, my very rough introduction to IT. But I mean, nonetheless, it's a part of the journey. So having not been able to do it, I just decided that, listen, this is where I want to go, and I'm not going to stop at any cost at all.
Awesome, awesome. So is at what point did you like learn to code and stuff like that, or got into that? How deep are you in tech is the question.
So it started there exactly. We had to do a little bit of coding. I mean, from the days of basic. I mean, I don't want to show my age up too much, but from the days of basic, we were there doing basic. I went to Northern Caribbean University, and I did a little bit of basic again on Pascal and that kind of thing. So all the older fundamental languages, we did those just to make sure that we had that, the core was strong. So in terms of, I mean, I was never proud of that A student. I mean, maybe closer to B plus, but it was what mattered in terms of the things that we did. Even persons amongst us, we had 5 persons, and we just challenge ourselves every time we got the chance. We challenge ourselves in terms of what are we going to do. We don't want to do the same things that everybody is doing. So I remember in my HTML5 class, we completed the entire book in the first week just to
Wow.
be sure that we could almost teach that HTML class. So
Hmm.
that's kind of like what we're doing. So I mean, outside of that, I was doing a minor in business. So that's where it all came from. Where it's a minor in business and major in IT. So I mean, in terms of coding, went all the way from data structures all the way up to doing the projects that. I mean, if you're familiar with the NCU curriculum, it's a little strenuous, but we did basically everything that will give you a solid IT core. So my level of expertise in coding goes all the way up to developing applications. I might not have the time to do all of that now, but I mean that doesn't mean that somebody is going to give me a piece of code that don't make any sense. I'll sit and break
Right.
it down because we were back then writing pseudocodes and building algorithms, just to make sure that we get that solid problem solving skill.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
the question now is in the eight before we even get to 876 get, but what was the first money you made online? What did you sell? How did it feel? When did it happen? What was it?
Online. Boy, I have a long journey in online. I remember back in the day, and I know I'm showing up my age again. Back in the
Yeah.
day, I I dabbled a little bit with eBay and Amazon and even Alibaba. And I'm talking back in about 2002, 2003. I had a very lucrative eBay store that I was running alongside my little computer hustle. We used to sell a lot of Jamaican items. And I remember at one time I went up to as much as about 200 plus items shipping
Wait,
overseas monthly.
was it like key rings and stuff like that?
Yeah, man, it definitely was.
I remember that, it was a big
Yes,
talk in my circle of friends.
yes,
This
yes,
guy who was selling Jamaican key rings online and making
yes. Yeah,
just selling a ton. I was like,
yeah, so we were
that was
selling
dope.
Jamaican earrings, scarves, just about anything
Yeah.
that we could catch because it was just that idea of sleeping. And I used to turn on my PayPal with a little ring on it. So whenever
Mhm.
anything happened, whether I'm sleeping or not, I just hear kitching. And that
Yeah.
was just, I mean, I didn't wake up to check it all the time, but it was just so exciting to see persons in Europe buying the Jamaican item. And we have a very, boy, we have Jamaica is such a brand. But then I started sending like coffee and stuff like that. I found myself sending coffee to Japan, sending it through Alibaba in terms of selling from Jamaica on Alibaba and selling on Amazon and selling on eBay. And I mean, that was my
Right.
little introduction. The next thing that we did was build the company name was CompuWorks before. So we
Yeah.
built CompuWorks and we built a little online store. I mean, we didn't get a lot of support in Jamaica at all. Persons kept telling me, boy, you're way ahead of the time. That's not going to work, XYZ. The first sale we did on it was in Barbados. So
Yeah.
we sold a subwoofer speaker system to a guy in Barbados, and up until this day, I think I have the email where the guy was just so excited. As to how he found it, I'm not even sure, but we didn't question that. It was just the internet doing its work.
How did you get it to Barbados?
Jamaica Post. I'll tell you something. I was one of those persons who I could tell you the rates of to go to every part of the world through the post office. And it was the only medium that we had. So we had to figure out, how it could work, and how we find that it could work is just knowing what knowing what the rates are, knowing the time that it's going to take, and as well with anything with e-commerce, you just have to be clear to the customer as to the delivery timelines. If there are any issues,
Right.
and you must offer some sort of customer service in terms of, well, if it is delayed for X amount of time, then this is the recourse, and so on. So I mean, it was just Jamaica Post. So I was there. I didn't join any line at the post office. I was the person that walked in with 12 different packages going everywhere across the world. And that was just my introduction and my thing at the time. You understand? So I just exhausted everything that I could have done with Jamaica Post at the time. And EMS, they had an EMS service that took 3 to 5 days to go to the US. That worked very well as well.
That's crazy. And you know what's funny about that story? This is why I didn't want to talk much before this call because I remember hearing about that keyring story years ago.
Yeah.
And you're not going to believe me, but that was probably one of the things that um started my mind journey into e-commerce? Because it
Okay.
wasn't this like 2007 or 6 or something?
Yes, man, it was in that time. It started around 2005, but it blossomed a little bit over the years. So we had a little website called Yard Sale, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we used the website as well to promote some of the stuff that we're selling on eBay and so on. So that's
Let
basically,
me
I mean,
tell
the
you,
rest
like
is
I went
history.
to Florida, I think the 2007, 2008, and every single time I went to Chucker Cove, everything
Yes,
single time I see a key ring in
yes,
like a pharmacy or something, I'm like, look at that simple thing somebody figured
yes,
out and shipping all
yes.
over the world,
Right.
you know.
So
So
even now, I still have close ties with some of the suppliers. I mean, it's just that it was just brand Jamaica. So sometimes persons they leave, they miss the island,
mhm,
and they want a little piece of it. So my way to get it back to them was just e-commerce. So persons
right.
would tell us all of their stories about how they stayed in, I mean, which hotel they stayed and wherever. But my thing was that, hey, I'm going to get you the coolest keyring that I can get you from Jamaica or whatever, some other kind of memorabilia, and just ship it. So that's what it was all about.
I don't know why you call me an expert in e-commerce, you know. Here I think I'm some trailblazer.
Well,
You introduced me to e-commerce.
well,
Um,
I'm happy for that.
all right, so so let's jump into 876 Get now. And I wanted this to be more like almost like a pitch deck type of thing. So I'm
Okay.
literally asking you questions that you would have to answer in like an investor meeting or stuff like that.
Yes.
Of course,
Okay.
you know how to answer the questions.
Yes.
Yeah. So first question. This brings me to 876 Get. I think you launched in the pandemic, but
Yes.
I don't think you're necessarily you weren't conceived in the pandemic.
No.
So before I even ask what is 876 Get, did you see the pandemic coming or something?
Oh no, I didn't. As a matter of fact, I was in China in the September of
Yeah,
2019, going about doing everything, not aware that there was some sort of a pandemic either on the way or probably was started already. I was just there going about my business. I had no idea about the pandemic. What happened is that 2 years ago we started looking at it in terms of we're looking at restaurants in Kingston, we're looking at just the entire delivery network, and we know that we needed to do something, and we're doing it, but we were just dragging our feet. Corona just said, "Move." That's why we were able to
right.
launch within 2 months after, 3 months after the pandemic.
Gotcha, gotcha. I mean that was basically the question because when I saw you out, I'm like, no way he got this idea a month ago, and I was like, this is well thought out, well planned out, and you launched, of course, in my hometown of Manchester. So the first question, what is 876 Get?
Right. So 876 Get is an e-commerce ecosystem. It consists of apps that we use for the customer to place their orders, the business to manage their orders, and the drivers in an Uber-like system that they can accept the orders and carry out the delivery. So we'll give a business a space online, their own little domain that they can put their products, and we from day one we allow them to be able to use a card. We allow them to be able to accept credit card payments and everything else, and then give them access to a delivery network that we believe is probably one of the biggest values that we're carrying to the table.
So you'd say you're a delivery company first?
I would say we're a delivery company, but we're an e-commerce ecosystem. And the reason why I keep saying that is that we do believe that we're a facilitator, but we are a delivery company, maybe to the far right. And the delivery company will overtake everything else because what we're looking at, we are looking at, we must be able to cover the entire island. I must be able to send something to you, and if I'm within the community or outside of the community. So on that side, we are a very strong delivery company in the making.
Right. Good stuff. Which is one of the main problems I've always said in Jamaica in terms of just getting stuff from A to B.
Yes.
So it's one of the things where I said to entrepreneurs looking to get into e-commerce now, to think about what you would build if logistics was solved,
Oh
right?
yes.
Right. So if 876 Get, not if, when 876 Get is in all 15 parishes, or is it 14? All
Well, it's
14
debatable.
parishes. And you're everywhere, well funded, well, greased. what would you build on top of that? So that's kind of where my thinking came for what I'm
Yes,
working on, right?
yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. So what problem are you solving? So this is like the number one question in Silicon Valley. What
So
problem are you solving?
the problem that we're solving is the same thing that you just mentioned. It's funny that you just mentioned it.
Mhm.
Getting products from A to B is the key problem in e-commerce. Meaning that, remember I was explaining to you earlier my exploits with Jamaica Post, moving things overseas, moving things to different countries. It's just that the logistics is always a problem. So if we can solve the problem of logistics, it simply means someone will need to launch an application in Portland. And instead of running up and down and saying, all right, that means I'm going to have to go to point A, drive to Ocho to get X. No, man, we're looking for you to tap into our system. And when you tap into our system, you already have the drivers who are trained, they have everything that's necessary to you just need to have your products and then we'll get it delivered for you. So we're solving the problem of getting things from A to B. And especially in Jamaica, the problem that is being solved is that the concentration of everything for delivery is in the corporate area. And of course, I've told you before that one of our philosophies is that you can't cover the country if you don't cover the country area. Simple.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Where we are now, I think 90% of just this region looks like here in terms of landmass and just,
Yes.
where people are, I would say 80%, I guess, would look like here. There's actually a company called What Three Words, and they say 70% of, um, I guess, people or
Yes.
residents have no addresses in the world.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, so I remember I think there was a company that launched in Mobi and deliveries were taking longer, and it was like, why, what's going on? And it turns out that just finding people is a problem.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Yeah. And because when you solve it in Kingston, you get outside of Kingston.
Yes.
So the reason why I would personally invest in 876 Gate, you're actually starting at the harder end.
Oh
If
yes.
you go around to all of Jamaica, to the Portland, the St. Mary, and then muscle up and say, all right,
It
Kingston,
gets
I'm ready
easier
for
when you get to
that.
Kingston. I,
Right.
I mean, we're doing a lot of practice before we get
Yeah.
up there, and I mean, I've always said it. If we can make a business out of, I mean, reaching to the areas that are less populated, then I can guarantee you that the rest of it is a lot. It's a lot easier.
Right. All right. Before we get on to the next question, I see a question here from JV, and it's on the screen. How do you access the addresses of the rural residents in the island?
All right, so there, it's not easy. Let me start off by saying that. But what we do, we have built in with the Google API, we ask persons to pin their location, and you won't find there's a lot of what they call unnamed street in Jamaica, but then we can still get directions to them. Yes, it is sometime off, so it does beg a conversation between a driver and a customer. Albeit that some, I mean, you don't want to be calling the customers all the time because that's a little bit annoying. But then in some places there's literally no address; it's just a district. And
Yep.
we're trying to conquer those, but we realize that we're probably helping Google as well to solve this problem because
Yep.
there are some things that we will have to name. You understand? And in terms of getting to them, though, it's not an easy road. I can tell you that much. But the majority of the orders are in especially like in Mandeville, they are not too far out of the town, but we do go a distance. That's why we use a mixture of bike and cars. We do go further into the really really rural areas, and when we do get there, if they pin the location, it's 95% easier than if they try to give you an address and directions. And trust me, you know how Jamaicans are when them are gonna tell you say you go past Mass John shop, and them tell us say it up on the left but it up on the right, and you go
Yep.
past the blue drum where somebody licked on last night and that kind of thing. So it's not necessarily the easiest thing, but we have had relatively good success in that era. And I mean, of course, if we can do it in this era, I do believe again that it's going to be so much easier when we get to corporate, to the urban areas.
Right. Perfect. I think that's a great question. I learned last year how important, like, just data and not just location is, but
Oh yeah.
traffic and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
You're probably getting us so much information right now 2, 3 years from now, you're gonna be like, oh wow, look at what we have. Because when you get, you connect the dots by looking back. There are two other questions here. I see Vivian Scully from Jampro. You say it's the fulfillment business.
Pretty
I
much.
think you were, yeah, referring to the problem. Yeah.
Pretty much.
There are two comments about payment gateways from Humila about using PayPal. None of the local banks had a
He's
solution
correct.
at the time.
He's correct. I
Yeah.
was in the same position. And a credit card machine is the only thing that they could. And then, I mean, if you see how we used to have to do that back in the day, then you'd realize probably where a lot of fraud and ideas of fraud came from, when somebody had to actually phone in and give you the card number over the phone, and you punch it in and you punch in everything. And I mean, it was a little bit messy, but it was a part of the growth of the industry. So we just had to do a lot of that.
All right, good.
Payment gateway. Right.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest challenge, I'm seeing another question. One of
Uh,
the biggest challenges in the smaller island is getting the payment gateway. How did you overcome this challenge? Well, I am so happy for NCB. And I mean, this is not a plug for NCB or anything, but I can tell you that they have become great partners, and we have solved a lot of the hiccups that were there, and we have
mhm.
been on a lot of seminars and speech in terms of talking to the entire sales team, in terms of what we're doing here in Manchester, because you know already, France, that Manchester is like a little country place. So I mean, for us to be pushing out e-commerce like that, it would have been a bit tough. But we have integrated with FAC, and FAC is one of the biggest provider in this region. And I mean, the timing is right, because I mean, maybe had it been 2, 3, 4 years before, then it would have been much more difficult. And again, the pandemic fast tracked so many things. So we were early through the gates with getting payment gateways. We actually integrated 3 payment gateways in 876 get to ensure that we didn't have any downtime. I'll tell you a funny story. When we launched with 1 payment gateway, and they went down the day before we were supposed to launch. What you think we had to do? We had to launch with cash and walk around with card machines until that problem was fixed, integrate another payment gateway, and then we move on. So it hasn't been easy, but we
Mhm.
have been, making the best of what we could do. So NCB has been doing it. I'm seeing Sagicor and such. A couple other places are giving very good integrations now. So it's not that big a problem like it used to be a couple years ago. Almost every bank now is online and offering that to their customers now.
Right. Awesome. And we have to, along with the banks you just said, and you mentioned FAC, you have to plug FAC, First Atlantic Commerce.
Oh yes.
Our friends Chris Byrne,
Oh,
Trisha Hill,
yes.
amazing people, amazing individuals, great,
Yes.
great company.
Yes.
And they started what in the 90s, they
Oh
saw
yeah.
this coming. So
Oh yeah.
kudos to them.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, so my next question is, uh, so we know what 876 get is, we know the problem you're solving, we know the length of the problem. What is the market? Like for an investor, for US based investors seeing this now and like, what they're saying is it sounds cool and nice, but like what's the money to be made here? What's the size of the total addressable market? So
So I'm aware that if there's anyone who know the market more than anybody in this particular region, that would be Mr. Franz Weathers himself. The market that we're looking at in Jamaica, um, based on what we're trying to do, we believe that we can get at least 70% of the population using e-commerce. I'll tell you something. What I could not understand is within a short period of time, we had 5,000 downloads of the app. Then we reached 6,000, 7,000. And when I checked it recently, we had 28,000 people downloaded the app. And on
wow.
top of that, it's quite possibly more than that amount of persons that use the website itself. Um, and whilst it is not conclusive in terms of the amount and the kind of transition that we're transitioning, there are millions of Jamaicans who now have, well, I'm saying millions, but it's just a few millions, that they have
Mhm.
access to like a basic Scotia or a NCB card that is that is accessible is either on the Visa network or the MasterCard network. And I believe that every single person, and I'm saying this from the perspective that we have other applications that will run on top of 876 Get, that we want to reach at least 80% of the 70 to 80% of the population, and that's Jamaica. We are looking at the entire Caribbean, and I'm already having persons in Barbados, in Trinidad, in other Caribbean countries that are asking questions in terms of how we can, expand and go over to the Caribbean to extend our services. In terms of the users, we have in excess of 1.2 million Jamaican. In terms of by 2025, that's what you'll have. We have a million currently that's using e-commerce. In terms of revenues, we are looking at 1.1 billion by 2025, and we have 722 million already in 2022. Some
Big
of these figures, I
numbers.
believe, we are responsible, and within within these numbers, I mean the Caribbean, though, when we touch the Caribbean, France, that's where everything sort of blow up. We're looking at 7.2 billion by 2025, and in 2022 we're already 4.4 billion in.
Yeah,
So in terms of food and personal care, 264 million by
that's
2025.
a lot of money we spend
Uh,
online on food.
we,
Quarter
we,
billion
we
US.
do, we do. And now we're
Yes,
looking at
man.
173 million, I mean, for 2022. So, I mean, these are statistics. And I am saying to you that in terms of, and I mean, I don't want to take it to a market share type thing, but for what it is that we're doing, I think the areas that we're in terms of we're in Mandeville, in Manchester, we're in Ocherius, we're in Montego Bay, and we're also in Spanish Town, which is in St. Catherine. And I mean, of course, you have an idea in terms of what we're trying to do is all of those little towns and communities that you're aware of. We believe that we need to build out a platform that we can offer, we can create what we call delivery communities. So in
Yep.
those delivery communities, I believe that Spalding, a very small town like Spalding, a very small town like Christiana, must have an IT backbone that they can build upon. And once they can build upon that, we can start seeing a lot of things like e-commerce centers. We can start seeing persons using various applications on top of the delivery network that we're going to be creating. So that's just a little bit, just a little bit of the statistics. Maybe you can tell me a little bit as well that you know about it.
That's it. That was the whole research. It's the only question I have for the data is
Yes,
which I'm coming. You answered some of the questions. The next question already still, but
yes,
some of the question I have is if Jamaicans are spending um 173 million US dollars on food and personal care this year, like where's the majority of that money going, right? Because
yes.
you have done a big number, but it's still so small in the grand scale of things. So that's one of the questions I have: is the majority of this money going to Amazon, but are people buying food on Amazon?
I
Like,
don't think they're buying food like everyday food on Amazon,
right.
but I am thinking that yes, a lot of it is Amazon. Persons are also importing food. There's a lot of barrels. We have that culture here in Jamaica that persons ship the barrel. But you know
Mhm.
what? There are a lot of freight forwarders and couriers that operate in Jamaica now in the Jamaican space. And one of the reasons why we did 876 Get France is that we want as much of the Jamaican money that is here to stay in circulation in Jamaica. When we had our first set of meetings with all of my persons that are in supervision slash management, we decided that what we wanted to do was to build an economy on top of the economy.
There you
So we
go.
wanted that to be something that, okay, so the Jamaican economy is such, okay, let's make the e-commerce economy itself per se become this. So once we build it on top of it, once it has solid foundation, then I believe that we should be able to change those numbers a bit and have a lot more of that revenue staying in the country.
Good. That's a good one. Next question. I think we have some comments here. The next question is really about traction. Um, Hugh Miller is making mention to, I think, WePay. Look into WePay, see if they offer a solution for your island. Also look into PayPal and other methods. I was determined to find a solution as I found Persons Pay when things seem to be coming from a well-established company other than you, the SME, calling or going to collect.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah, man. I think we found the solution. I think the solution is for you, Omar, is FAC connecting with the banks, correct?
Right, right. And they have a very quick, fast turnaround time.
Yeah.
So we do use WePay. So WePay is actually one of the three that I was telling you about that
Hmm.
we have. So yes, and we are still keeping as much of it into the Caribbean. So we were excited to partner as much as possible with WePay. So we do have a couple of gateways that we process through, and WePay is one of them. So thanks much for that, Mr. Miller.
Awesome. Alistair, as we digitize more than the number of users, it's going to be the increasing value of traffic that I'd figure is our big selling point for future.
Yes, it is.
Yep, yep, yep.
Totally agree with that.
All right. Next question. What is your traction? So you were speaking about app downloads.
Yes.
Um, yes. So what traction can you speak to? Like website views, revenue, downloads. The
Right.
big thing about the very big thing about startups is the second you make a dollar, you're now post revenue, right? And I think regionally and even locally, I don't think investors are, that level of where money is. Look at how important it is for something online created locally to make its first dollar, right?
Right.
Especially with a smart leader who is not just going to make the first dollar and be happy, but you're looking for the skies. So in the US and Silicon Valley, there are entire courses on how to get your first customers. And
Right.
when you get your first paying customers outside of mommy and daddy, it's a big deal.
Yes, it is.
You have gotten 50,000 of them.
Yes, yes, yes. So I mean, I can tell you. I mean, when you speak to the startup of 876 Get, it's a little bittersweet for me, because I lost my mother the 12th, and our plan was to start 876 Get the 13th. And I think one of what my mother asked us to do is to continue, keep doing what we're doing, and push. So I left from the university hospital and I came back to Mandeville after everything was settled down. And we started on the 13th. And from that day until now, we have not had a quote unquote nil day to say that we have not had customers using the platform. So I say it is bittersweet because of that, but I can tell you that the traction that we have been getting, uh, we love our customers. And that when I say we love our customers, if you love your customer, the repeat customers are your baby.
Yep.
And I mean, we have gone through instances where we have persons use 876 Get morning, noon, and night, right? And I am seeing a lot of this. It's a trend, and the trend is continuing. And well, thank you very much, Cleon. I am seeing a lot of this in terms of the traction is from repeat customers and persons who speak to other persons, and just that word of mouth culture, which you know how it is already in Jamaica. Yes, a young customer, a company, you're going to mess up a little bit. You're going to have a little bit of dissatisfaction here and teething pains that we have to fix. We'll never stop fix teething pains, especially for something that's not very, very popular in Jamaica. We have to define what customer service is going to look like. But I
Mhm.
can tell you that the customers, the reviews that we get in terms of talking to people, people speak to us a lot. People tell us what it is that they do. More than what they will write, they will speak to us, and they speak to the drivers. And the kind of responses that we get, it just pushes us to go a little further. So we know that we have gone in excess of 28,000 downloads, heading to 30,000 very, very, very fast. I remember looking at when we just started, we were celebrating every time we reach 1,000 transactions. Once we reach 1,000 transactions, it was like a holiday for us. And then we realized that when we reach 2,000 and 3,000, the celebrations start to come way faster. So instead of celebrating every 1,000, we know how to celebrate every 5,000. Until now, we speak of it when we reach to 10,000, twenty
Yeah.
thousand, 30, 40, 50,000, and going on and going on and going on and going on. So without giving you too much information in terms of, I believe that what we're experiencing now is growth that I mean, this is what you desire as a startup. The kind of growth that we're experiencing, it's overwhelming and it's humbling, because guess what? We can't do any business at all without the customers. So I mean,
Mhm.
you can formulate any sort of business that you want, but the fact that we have gotten over 20,000 persons to even download the app and give it a try is humbling. Every time we send out a broadcast and we say that it's reaching 10, 15,000 persons each time, we just get very careful about it and just make sure that we're saying things that persons would actually don't mind hearing. I've seen persons send out other things that are a little bit negative, but listen, we want to ensure that every time somebody pick up the app and say an update from us, we treasure every single download that we get, and we anticipate that we can triple everything that we are doing in another couple of months.
That's amazing. I mean, I wish I had done my research on this before, but Clubhouse, when they had the same amount of downloads you had, I think they were in the 8-digit valuation, and they weren't even sure how they was gonna how they were gonna make money.
Okay.
Um, Before I get to the question on the screen, and that's a key part of why I love e-commerce as well, because there are companies that get crazy valuations just because of the money they might make in the future from advertising or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So the fact that just comparing, US, valuations to our emerging startups here, because I
Right.
think you're one of the bright sparks that is well run, good brand, and as you mentioned about the traction now, when you compare it to other startups that haven't made any money, they have 10,000 daily users and they're worth millions of US dollars,
Right.
right?
Right. Right. Right.
Um, right. So here's a question on the screen. I know you're new. I think you're just 2 years old, but
We're not two as yet.
oh, you're not 2 as yet.
No, we're not 2 years as
Yeah.
yet.
So the question is, what are some of the ways you are giving back to your communities and customers, or how do you plan to?
Well, what I would say is we do have a lot of programs that we have planned. We don't have a lot that has started as yet, but we're getting a foot in terms of what we're doing now for the community. We are trying our best to recruit those persons who we believe with a nice and clean police record, of course, and who we can trust and get recommendation from. We are trying our best to take persons out and train them to give them a skill. We're in discussions now to start skill training in all of the areas that we do. We have plans to open businesses that will hire the same persons that are from communities and give them a way that they can earn. We're also considering that we are going to partner with some of these restaurants in a way that will be able to feed the poor. I mean, guess what? There's nobody out there who can get out there better than us. So
Right.
whilst we're building delivery network, I'm saying to you, well, hear what? If you have a food policy there and you have a way that you'd want to give back to some of these homes, guess what? If you want us to pick it up 9 o'clock every night, we'll come there and pick it up. We have ways and means that we have partnered with the businesses to give back to their customers. Just small tokens. We haven't done anything big as yet. Um, and and one of the things that we do have planned outside of that skills training center is that we're partnered with the Heart Trust NTA to give a little bit of pep talk here and there to persons and accept persons who are graduates to come into the system. We're searching for area managers and we're speaking to the Heart Trust NTA so they can find persons. We're talking to the Ministry of Labor because they have an employment system as well. And for now, the most that we can do is empower and build those persons that are coming on. So that's what we have been doing within the short period, space of time that we have been around. So we have a
That's a
lot of plans to do it in the future.
That was a good question and a great answer. I didn't expect you were doing that much because it's not something people focus on. I don't know if I would be, would be thinking about it as detailed as you are, because you're in the point now of building the business and growing, and but you're always thinking of giving back and
Yeah. And
um
it's funny that that question should come now because
mhm,
today, of all the days since we have been doing 876 Get, 3 persons approach me about things that we can do for the community. Just today,
yeah.
So those three persons, and I'd reach out to someone and say, it's kind of funny that this is what is coming up now, because I have a 25-page plan as to how we're going to go into some of those communities and take people as best as possible out of poverty, take them out of the risk that is there, persons going out there. The only thing that they can see is them friend who is a chopper or whatever doing this over there, that over there. We have no interest in any of that, and we want to tell persons that there is a better way, earn your honest bread. And I can't even say to you some of what we have paid to some of the drivers and riders coming up, because we do a percentage, and the more they put in is the more they get. That is so encouraging to a lot of these persons.
Yeah, man, I think that's very important because it even from a profit standpoint, because you are richer if the communities we do business
That
in are richer. It's as
that's my
simple as that.
exact response. I
You
mean,
can't
if you
just
are rich and you're in with the communities that are poor, it doesn't help any at all. We're
no.
looking at some locations, and when we look at some of those locations, just the name of them will scare some persons. But guess what? There isn't any community in any of the areas that we deliver to that we don't go to, because 90% chance we'll have somebody from that area delivering in those areas. So when you talk about Norwood and St. James and Flankers and all of those places,
Yeah.
we have persons that come from those areas, and we provide as best as possible for the training and coming out. We have even had to relocate persons, because the truth is some of these areas are really tough. So when you have a little man trying inside of these areas, he's faced with so much that you don't even know about it. But that's for a totally different conversation. But yes, we believe that the youth are the future, and especially in a business like this, there are multiple opportunities that we can provide to them.
Yeah, man. As I said, it's right on topic with an article I wrote recently regarding if you want to attract US based investors. That was one of the things because um, no matter how we fight, and it will be a long fight, they primarily don't look at Caribbean based startups as, oh, I'm going to get rich. You know, they
Mm-hmm.
primarily look at it like, look, even if I don't get my money back from this thing, is it actually doing good? Right? Because
Right.
at least it can make an impact immediately. So it does
Right.
something. It's, so that's amazing. So I think if an investor invests, you're not only doing good, but they'll do well. Um, yeah, so getting to the two last questions, but here is somebody asking, does 876 get offer courier services for those with an existing online store, which is,
Yes, we do.
okay,
Yes,
all
we do.
right, nice.
And that's
We
something
do
we
have
can
an
always
online
discuss.
store only. I think that's where I would come in as well. I will have an online store.
Yes.
876 get you plug into that now. You will
Right.
have their
And you
network.
just get access to the delivery network.
Yep.
And that's a very big part of the future. So we're revamping some of what that will look like in terms of creating the relevant APIs that we can do a nice smooth handshake. So that's something that's that's definitely what we want to do. We don't want to just create a network and be selfish about it. We want persons to have the same experience. We had that trouble back in the day moving things from place to place. So if our stance of building delivery communities play right back into that, because that delivery community is not just for one person. So it's not just for 876 get, but it's for the little man that have him like a store and he want to get something from point A to point B, he'll just tap into it and go.
Yeah, man, and I have to add as well, it's not even say keep it for yourself type of thing, because
Mhm.
I think one of the world's largest companies, $2 trillion, Amazon,
Yeah.
the biggest piece of that business started out as them doing something for themselves.
Right,
And they
right.
did it so well, which is AWS, Amazon Web
Mhm.
Services. They did it
Right,
so
right, right.
well where
Yes.
it's like, why aren't we selling this to other businesses? And now,
Right, right. Yes, yes.
if Amazon Web Services goes down, like half the internet go, you can't even watch Netflix.
Maybe more than half.
Right? Probably more than half. Almost every website you can think of.
Mhm.
Yeah. So question 5, second to last one. Um, have you raised any funds? I think you said you're almost 2 years old. Have you raised any funds? Are you raising any? How did you get? Because a lot of people are looking at this like, I wish I could do that, but how would I start? Of course, you've been in business for a minute,
Yes.
so you had startup capital. But
Yes, that's what the thought process would be for a lot of persons. But amongst ourselves, in terms of the directorship, we have not gone outside of that for to raise any major capital. In terms of what we're about and what we're doing, we have had to get used to that word called bootstrap. And I mean, bootstrapping is so difficult, but we have done a very good job so far. So, I mean, you have spoken to a lot of elder business person, and they'll tell you that, boy, everything I make, I put it back in the business. Like literally, we started off with one car. If I show you a picture of that one car that we started with, like, and it could drive, well, yes, it could drive. But what we did was paint it up, make it look good, go out there and deliver. And when all is said and done, it became two cars, and it moved from two cars to become three cars. Then it became five cars, and we found a way that we could incorporate persons using their own cars, not just as independent drivers, but as persons who we could manage cars that they would have given to us to become a part of the delivery network. So we found a way, because not gotten capital, we found a way that we still need to scale. The deliveries were coming in left, right, and center. So we couldn't stop. So instead of, I mean, running around to say, all right, we're going to be raising capital now and pause, we didn't pause. And we're never going to pause. So what we did was found a way out of that. And that way that we found was a system that we call the Untrap system. So we are basically turning persons into entrepreneurs by having them own the little cars, and they have a little something to look forward to every week. So we developed a system like that, and that system has grown the delivery network by, I would say, at least 50 or 60%, much further than and faster than we could have done it. So we did that for scale. Yes, it might be looked at as, boy, we're paying out some of the revenue, but again, I am one of those persons that, I mean, we want persons to earn. We're not just creating this for it to just be something that's there. We believe that the community around us should earn, and instead of having persons invest in the company itself, we had them invest in a unit that could give them some returns just the same. We get the use of it, they get a little something from it, so everybody wins.
Right. And even the strategy, of course, even if it's unintended, is the best time to raise money is when you don't need it. So if
Right.
you're raising money and you're building a big business, you want 10, 15, 20 people or
Oh
entities to be
yes.
trying to get in,
Oh yes. Oh yes. Oh yes.
so I guess the answer to this question is no, you haven't raised any, but you haven't gotten to that point where you're ready to raise yet.
I believe we are ready.
Oh, you
Um,
are ready.
our plans are what I would call grandiose. we have
Mhm.
we have a lot of plans. We have a 2.0 version of the app that we want to be releasing. So just some of the services that are not available in the rural areas. You'll hear me talk a lot about the rural areas, because again, the strategy is to make sure that you deliver something to the rural areas that they will also feel like, okay, so that sense of inclusion. You
Mhm.
understand? I remember delivering Starbucks coffee to somebody in St. Mary, and they posted about it like it was the greatest thing that ever happened. And for us, just that pride to know that in a country area, St. Mary, I mean, Mark is not very, very far from Ocherios, but the fact
Mhm.
that we could take a brand that is there, and that people know about, they never tried it. But the guy put up him coffee, and he was like, hey, look, we get Starbucks in a St. Mary 876 get is the best thing ever. You understand? So we believe that with some of the plans that we have, we're going to need the financial assistance to move it forward. And of course, eventually, you know what the stock market is looking like in Jamaica. So we are not averse to any of that as well. So
Right.
that question that just came up, that's basically the answer to it.
Yeah,
That's
man,
it's a
Elisa, he's on
resounding
point.
yes. So private
Elisa is
equity
on point.
will private equity will entertain in the short term, and then we look to go with public. I've said to everybody that I want to see if we can create the biggest public offering in Jamaica. And again, persons would look at me and say, boy, you're thinking ridiculous. And I'm like, good, that
That's
means I'm on
ridiculous.
track.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And I love that.
Yeah, why you? Why you are gonna do that?
Right.
Um, yes, so yeah, so that, I mean, that answered the question perfectly. I think we have this call at the perfect time as well, because if people are looking to invest, you are not hard to find. You're literally on the thing on LinkedIn, message him,
Yeah.
ask him a question, schedule a call. The last question, what was it again? Oh, your team. Um,
Yes.
what does a team look like? Like, who are the superstars? Are you looking to hire people? Who do you
Yes.
have a chief technology officer? Is there a CFO? You can choose what to answer, because
All right.
a lot of people, it's
Mhm.
we forget who the core people are. And
Yes.
I also wanted to ask about like the main tools you use.
Yes.
For example, I love QuickBooks. So
Yes.
people who are
Yes.
watching this are like, all right, we know what payment thing you use. But a lot of people you start business and the whole back office thing, who's
Right.
managing what. So how do you structure that? Do you have a board?
Right. So we do have a board. It's a relatively small board at this point. But we use a lot of systems to make things work. And in terms of the persons behind those systems, that's probably the greatest asset that 876 get possess. We have superstars in the system. We don't have a CFO, a CTO. We don't have a lot of those, and that's one of the reasons why we're going to getting a little bit more structured. So we can. I've handled most of the IT. Of course, I can't continue doing that. But that's one of the reasons, again, we're going so that we can build what we call those pillars for 876 get to stand upon. We have my wife, Carolyn. I don't think you have met her, but she
Mm-mm.
has been there from the start. And she's a jack of all trades and everything that we need to go through. I'm a person who writes. Before we started, one thing on 876 Get, I probably have over 100 documents that I've written. And those are supposed to be instructions on how things are supposed to be, how we'd want it. Of course, a lot of persons don't love to read and go through all of them. But if I should give you it now, you come into 876 Get. I've structured it now a little bit better. We use Notion, so that means every aspect of the business, we do have, instructions on how it is supposed to be, how an introduction to it, and that kind of thing. So I don't know if you have seen us on our YouTube channel where we give instructions to the business how to use the platform, the customers how to use the platform, and so on and so forth. So I love to write. Good. So the structure that we have came about. We have the control agents. Good. The control agents are probably outside of the drivers one of the hardest working set of people that I know. They're the ones who keep the transactions together, meaning that in Jamaica, it's not as easy to break into e-commerce as it would have been in other areas. So our control agents become that liaison between the customers, the businesses, and the drivers. Why do we need that when we have all of this technology? It's simple because we are trying to pilot something here that's not necessarily we have businesses that the phone ring and they don't answer it. I mean, that's not the businesses that are on the platform. But I'm saying you can look at something like that and see why a tablet will go off and somebody probably don't hear it. So we just have simple rules that say if an order is unanswered for like 3 minutes, then they'll get a call from someone.
Right.
And they'll
I
be
get that
talking
too.
between the customer and everybody. So those persons are really some superstar. But I'll never forget the drivers because let me tell you something. Those are the face of 876 Get. So the drivers are those persons who will just hear pling every minute and all right, bam, them gone to an order. And I mean, there are instances where a driver might have a little bit more than what they would have wanted in terms of orders on the system, but it's a part of the growing pains. So if any driver listening, I'm saying that listen, love you guys because at the end of the day, we can't do anything without you. We can't do anything without the businesses on the platform. Can't do anything without our management team. We have one person that does most of the accounting, but they're also the person who is in charge of like the general management of just those cars that we can't feel. They'll handle the control agents and the drivers and so forth. And I mean, it's a lot of moving pieces because we have like driver training and control training. But what we have done so far is ensure that we document all of these. So we are looking for area supervisors at this time. Every area that we go in now, we are looking for field officers who are going to assist us with recruitment and training and just generally keeping everything in line. Um, we have had issues in the past in terms of we have drivers and they'll come for a little bit and then they don't turn up. So of course, they didn't ask me about any other problems, but these are things that we're solving by putting in all of what we call the pillars. So if you should go to Sparling, we'll have somebody there who's ensuring that all of the transactions are going through. We're an IT company, but we'll never leave out the human capital. We can't leave out the human capital because at the end of the day, it is who we are and it is just the things that we do. So we must find that bridge between making every something IT based, but still getting those people engaged. I mean, as a leader, those people that you lead are the ones that will end up making the business successful. So we are looking for a few persons but we do have those persons that are there. In terms of development, we do have a few persons that would assist us with development. We have a lovely team. Some of them are local, some of them are overseas based. I lead that particular team. I lead everything IT related at this point. We're going to need an IT manager soon. We're going to need someone with just management is what we're going to put into place now to move into the 2.0 version of what 876 Get is going to become.
Awesome. Just as you say, IT, a good friend of mine, Cedric. He's a went to Monroe together. He's a great guy with IT and I believe infrastructure and
Yes,
stuff
good.
like that.
Yes, Cedric.
Oh, you know Cedric?
No, no, I don't think I
Okay,
do.
okay. Yeah. So I mean, great answers. And two things. I remember when you just started. Well, firstly, what you're saying is you do have a board. Of course, there are executives. It sounds like on the, I guess, mid to lower level, you
Yes,
figure that out because
yes.
you're working through the problems and as you said, site, field officers and I guess site managers. So
Mhm.
you're structuring that for growth.
Right,
And just by listening to how you're doing it, it sounds like something that could be transplanted to Trinidad and Barbados and
right.
just having it that way as an IT company.
That's the aim. Get
Um,
it started properly and done.
Right. So
Yeah.
I guess when you're in fundraising mode now, so what comes with that, as I understand, sometimes, and an investor might say, "Here's some money, and what do you need on your team?" Oh, I know a great guy, and that I think that might not happen with you, but I've seen that a lot where
Yes.
once the first investors in your company, as you know, are they're like co-founders.
Right.
It should be somebody you build some relationship with. So when they say, "Oh no, I have a great CFO guy. I've worked with him for 20 years at Goldman Sachs," then let's go.
Yeah.
So I guess that's where you're gonna fill those spots.
Right. Right.
But
Definitely.
when I started, the first order I made on 876 Get, or the first few orders,
Yes.
I experienced the customer service as well, like somebody calling me. Because I'm like, I ordered, and I'm like, all right, let me give it an hour or so, or hour and a half. 'Cause expectations low when you
Right.
just
Right.
pandemic
Right.
just start, right? And
Understand.
then in like 30 minutes, I'm getting a call like, there's a little delay. I'm like, whoa, I didn't expect that. I mean, it's just 30 minutes. It's cool, but I got the communication. But in my head, I'm like, let me see how long this is going to last.
Yes.
Because with some startups, they start and they're pumped. And
Mhm.
after a while, people get burned out or whatever the case is. And two
Right.
years
Right.
in, I can tell you that the service level is still the same.
Yes. Yes.
Like my background in customer service, I spent 4 years in call centers, right? Amazon.
And
So
that's
I'm
a
like, I
tough
wonder
one.
if this, huh?
And that's a tough one.
Oh Lord, don't even say it.
Hmm?
But I w- I- I'm like, does Omar give these people pep talks? Because I know, especially in the call center, you some on some accounts you have what's called a reward and recognition person.
Right. Mhm.
Because when that young lady calls me and two times just to be like, look, there's a long line at whatever, and it comforts
Mhm.
me. But then she needs to feel appreciated as well. I'm like,
Yes.
you
Yes.
have to have some internal strategy because I've seen it for 2 years. The
Mhm.
ball has never been dropped, in
Right.
terms of
Right.
customer service.
Yes. So I mean,
So
as you know, we have been doing some amount of business over the last maybe 20 years. So I mean, I usually tell persons, I mean, dealing with customers or offering customer service is not, it's not difficult. It's just that if you have the attention of that customer for 30 seconds, 1 minute, you have a chance to impress them to come back, and you have a
mhm.
chance to ensure that their experience with the company is one that they won't forget and one that they will remember. I'm not going to ever say to you that it's going to be always perfect with us, because like any other company, it's fall out. People have bad days, people have this, people have that to deal with. So it's just again that mixture between the human element and work and so on. So but we do have persons who encourage them and speak to them and just ensure that everything, that everything is going as best as possible. With as with everything else, you can't know exactly what's happening with the persons, but once you can live close enough that they don't feel afraid to say, hey, I'm having this problem, you must have that open door policy that persons can come to you and say, like, this is the case, XYZ, and you can address it. Just emotional intelligence is what it is called. You must
Yes,
have that particular bond, and it's just about being a people person. Once persons understand you, you can understand them. I'm not going to say I'm always that person. Everybody who is a thinker going to have that little that little, that little point where you become that disciplinarian or become that very strict person that, I mean, this is how you get things done sometimes. However, you must find that balance. And again, you hear me use that word again, but that balance is just so important to make everything work. Sir Mitchell, how you doing?
Awesome, awesome. All right. I mean, that was my last question. There are two questions here from the audience. This one was there for a second. Let me just touch on these two first. Darlene Barnett, how are you harnessing data to make better decisions?
Right. So data is very, very important. And I start off by saying that if you even have a conversation with us too long, you're going to have an NDA. And I'm saying that because data is so rich, it can assist you to make a lot of decisions. I am a numbers person, well, to an extent. I use Google Data Studio quite a bit, and we use the data that we gather um, carefully in terms of we want to know who are our best customers. We want to know what company is doing XYZ. And I'll tell you something. When persons started coming on 876 Get, I wasn't the one providing all of the numbers. Persons were coming to me and saying, hey, my business increased 35%. And I'm like, whoa. The fact that you know how much it
Right.
increased just
I
already
wasn't,
blow me away.
I
And,
wasn't
and
even
I'm,
thinking about it from that side, as in
so
the impact you're having on businesses.
So we have businesses that, I mean, they would have gone under in the pandemic. And I'm happy to say that we have helped a lot of that. But in terms of making better decisions, we ensure that we're not carrying a lot of products and services. But the areas that we focus on in terms of what needs building, in terms of what need a little bit of tweaking here and there, we use the data that we gather to decide on those. Do we need another car in Ocherius? Do we need another car in Montego Bay? Do we need bikes instead of cars? Which a lot of that has had to be happening since the petrol prices. So we're able to tell you what the revenue is from one car. We're able to tell you, but hold on, this should not be burning this amount. So the kind of data that we would gather is one where in which we can probably tell you every single increase in the price of gas. We can tell you when the car needs a service. We can tell you a lot of things because everything just inputs just rich data. And it's not just about, I mean, one person who is doing 100 orders per week. And yes, we have drivers that do that amount of deliveries per week, but we also present it to the businesses. We presented to the
I think you're answering this question now as well.
we
That
we
sounds great.
presented we present some information to some of the businesses to see what they have been doing, how they performed during the pandemic in terms of on lockdown days and such. And I mean, you'll find it funny from me that I don't like the lockdown days, but it does pressure the system. When I say pressure, I mean like it overpowers the entire system. But we were able to show to some companies what it looked like, what you have been doing. And just in terms of financial data, I have companies who they just use 876 Get just as an alternate revenue, just an additional revenue source and
Mhm.
not touching it. And I have businesses that call me and say, Omar, from the day we spoke until now, if I should tell you the amount of money I was able to go into whatever, because they get paid twice every week. So they were able to go into their account and make a substantial purchase because of just sitting and watching what has been happening. But yes, we use the data as to the best of our ability, and Google Data Studio is one of the tools that we use to ensure that we have an idea as to when things are up, when things are down, what we need to push. We do use some amount of analytics. So we just try to make good decisions based on the data that we have.
Gotcha. All right. I think that's it. You know what? I wanted to keep it within an hour, to not bore people with our e-commerce conversation. But we're at the hour now, and I think this was a great call. I mean, I learned a lot. I didn't even realize that you had inspired me so early in business.
I'm happy that
Because
I
I
did.
swear, up to this day, whenever I see a Jamaican keyring, I was like, what? I wonder what that guy is doing now. I'm
Mm,
not kidding. And here you are.
mm.
You know, it was a big thing in Mandeville. My brother, everybody was talking about it.
Oh yes, your brother
Um,
was very aware of that business, so
yeah,
that's probably why
man.
you were, you knew so much about it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was good talking to you. You answered all the questions. And as I said, I want this to be, you know, this e-commerce insider thing. I just randomly named it. LinkedIn said, hey, you now have access to newsletters and live. I'm like, you know what? I think, I don't know what form it's going to take, but, you know, what I'm seeing is many of me and you, you know, kind of emerging in e-commerce now.
Yes.
It is
Right.
not like, you know, 30 years ago where to start a supermarket, you need $10 million, right?
Yes.
You
Not
can
anymore.
start an online store now for 100 grand and
Mm,
probably make it back the following months.
mm,
So the goal is not for us to be, um, you know, fighting. If we can work together, plug
mm,
stuff in other people's stuff, maybe
mm.
when we get big enough, you know what will happen then, right? Mergers, acquisitions. Why? Because we've been friends for 5, 6, 7 years.
Exactly.
You know, and that's when we'll become
Also,
attractive to the US-based company. Can you imagine if 876 Get is doing 10 million US a year, and then two other businesses said, I think we should all merge, and now you have a $50 million business.
just like
That's
that.
attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where we are. You know, we got a lot of comments, but I think this is it. Zoya saying excellent live, great work, Omar and Franz. Zoya is a
Thank you
project
very
manager
much.
as well.
It was a
Excellent project
pleasure.
manager.
Pleasure
And
and an honor to have you for you to have me, friends. And I'll be back anytime you're ready, man. Anytime at all.
thank you, Omar, and have a great evening. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks again.
All right.